So I really want to thank you for this privilege. I don't take it for granted, and I appreciate you that even though you did not know me, but just reaching out to you, you kind of connected with the vision and the initiative, and you came on board. I mean, just to let our viewers know, I mean, you dedicated almost a month, to dropping videos every single day within the group, both on Facebook and LinkedIn, talking about goal setting, talking about goal tracking, talking about the reasons why goals fail. And that touched my heart because it was just one conversation I had with you, and immediately you came on board, and it was as if it was your group, and I really appreciate you for that.
My
So
pleasure.
that's just thank you very much. That's just to set us off. I mean, before we go to all the slides, I usually ask my guests and my co-presenters basically questions about how has this pandemic affected you. It's something we didn't plan for, but it came, and to a large extent, people are adapting in different ways. So can you just kind of briefly tell us how this pandemic has affected you, what you've done differently, how you're coping with it generally?
Okay, so the first thing that has happened is that we all had to come back to the reality of the need to, create a new strategy. So it's very important to focus more on what can be done differently now that we have to work from home and still have to survive. It has brought to fore the very important need to begin to render services using the internet, leveraging technology. Now,
Right.
we have had that opportunity staring us in the face, but many people have refused to, use the internet, leverage technology to start selling, to meet with one another. Imagine mostly when we needed to have meetings, we would actually travel like 3, 4 hours to hold meetings. And we felt that there were certain meetings that couldn't be held online. There are meetings that must be held in person, but the pandemic changed everything. Right now, nobody is saying, look, this is not a meeting we can hold online. This is a meeting that we would hold physically. So we're all holding the meetings online because you're stuck at home. You're not supposed to go out. And even if you wanted to go out, because the lockdown is being gradually eased in so many parts of the world, people are still scared to go out. So the same people who didn't want to go out before are now the ones who are going out. The only challenge is those who did not automate their services before the lockdown are affected because they can't quickly make the switch to start rendering services online. We're all test running what works and what will not work. And because of that, income is largely affected. There's no doubt about that. We had trainings scheduled to run. Quite a number of the trainings have been cancelled. And I think that what people could have done is to say, okay, we're going to run the same training, but let's run those same training virtually. We're going to
Online,
run the
right?
same session exactly, but I see that so many people still do not want to switch to the internet, running online trainings, but we don't have a choice. We're going to come to that time where we're going to run online trainings. And I think that in a city like Lagos, with over 21 million people, one of the ways we can decongest our traffic is to actually continue with this work from home kind of situation. And let's move a lot of our meetings to virtual meetings. That way, we spend less on transport, we spend less on fuel, we reduce climate pollution and all of that. So yes, it has affected. It's primarily a shaker for mindsets.
Right.
So why were we saying these things cannot be held online before? And all of a sudden, nobody is going out and we're all holding the same meetings online.
I mean,
So
it's interesting that you mentioned mindset because, I mean, to a large extent, also, I've been having discussions with a couple of my friends, right?
yeah,
And it seems that they are not willing to change. I know it's human in terms of we resist change
yeah,
because everybody also, they're afraid of, the unknown.
mm,
But from what you're saying, I mean, I've seen some banks do their annual general meeting
yeah,
online, virtually,
yeah.
and
I saw
everything
all
went
of that too.
smoothly. Exactly. Everything went smoothly and was successful. And I think the mindset is key here because we need to begin to think of the new normal. I mean, a lot of my friends still don't believe that there's a new normal. They still believe we're going to go back to, the way things are. And I keep telling them that things have changed, right? even
Yes,
though it might
a
be in the
lot. Sorry,
short
sorry
term.
to interject you. A
Yeah,
lot
go
has
ahead, sir.
actually changed. Take, for example, this kind of meeting that we're holding. Look at what
Hmm.
we're doing simultaneously.
Yeah.
Ideally, we would need to rent a hall for this kind of
Hmm.
meeting. You will spend a lot of money printing invitation cards. You will spend a lot of money on digital campaigns, asking people
Right.
to come for a physical meeting. Then you would pay a cameraman to come into the meeting to record the videos of the meeting. And the cameraman might also mess you up at the end of the day. You would need
Right.
someone to take physical pictures or still pictures. And when you're done, you have to duplicate the CDs for people to be able to buy. You have to pay somebody to put it online and stuff like that. But pandemic has compressed everything. So
Everything.
right now there's
Right.
no need for a cameraman. A website called Zoom is our cameraman. Facebook is our cameraman right now. And
Yeah.
Facebook and Zoom are both the still photographers. At the same time, they are the ones that will duplicate the CDs, quote unquote, the virtual CDs. So
Correct.
there are people, if we don't have that cultural shift right now, if there's no paradigm shift right now, people are going to lose their jobs.
Hmm.
And the advancement in technology is actually gradually taking away the jobs of a lot of people. So the first and the most important thing is, what can I do differently, or how
Right.
can I adapt technology in such a way that I'm still relevant and I don't lose my job? That's what I think we should be looking at right now.
Excellent, excellent summation, sir. I totally agree with you. I mean, we need to leverage on technology to start doing the things that we were doing, in brick and mortar offices, moving them virtual and online. Maybe we need to sit down also and talk about digital transformation some other day.
Yeah.
But again, the topic today is centered around the group's focus, which is the ability to set goals, to track goals, and actually achieve them. And the group was set up specifically for 2020. So, I mean, in my mind, I got inspired to the fact that okay, we've run the year up onto midway, which will happen, in a couple of weeks time in June. And a lot of people have set goals, have set targets, and it looks like because of the pandemic, they might be discouraged and say, oh, what am I going to achieve, in the year 2020 and all of that. So that's why I felt that okay, let me sit down with a couple of my friends, a couple of people that I believe are achievers, are getters, so that we can discuss this thing in an informal, relaxed atmosphere for some of our group, our community members, and anybody at large to gain from it. So I'll just go straight to it, and I can see that you put up the slides already. So in terms of personal assessment and goal setting, how do you go about it? What is your normal routine? Maybe it's quarterly, it's yearly or monthly. How do you set goals? How do you do personal assessment?
So the first thing I do when I'm setting my goals is to ask myself questions like, where do I need to be? What do I
Right.
want to achieve in life? What are the things that are paramount to me? What is important to me? And I keep telling people that when you're setting goals, you first of all need to have a clear vision. If you don't have a
Right.
clear vision, you're wasting your time if you're setting goals. And the reason is because of one of the definitions I've given to goals. And you see that definition somewhere in my slide. So
Right.
you look at this particular definition of goals right now. I did say that
Yeah.
a goal is a desired result that a person or a system actually envisions,
Mm.
plans, and commits to achieve. But look at where I started from. A goal is a desired result that a
Right.
person or okay, this is Wikipedia definition. Let me go to my own actual definition of goals. Now, here's my own definition of goals. I did say that a goal is a smaller component of your vision. That's the first line of my own definition of goals. So if
Right.
you don't understand that a goal is a smaller component of your vision, there is no way you will be able to set any goal that will be effective. So
Mm.
I did say that the goal acts as a roadmap specifying what needs to be done, where, when, and how in order to lead you from where you are to where you want to be. So what that means is that you need to take care of your vision first.
Right.
When you now take care of your vision, The vision will then determine the goals that you have, because the question is, why are you setting goals? You're actually setting goals to achieve something bigger. You're setting a goal to achieve a vision. So if you're setting a goal, the goal has to be in line with the vision that you want to achieve. Let's say, for example, your vision is to become a medical, say you want to become a medical doctor.
Right.
If you want to become a medical doctor, you then have daily goals or yearly goals that you're going to set, which will keep you in line to becoming a medical doctor. If you
Right.
want to become a nurse, you must have daily goals, yearly goals that you will follow until that time when you become a nurse. The same thing for someone who wants to become aeronautic engineer, the person who wants to become a pastor, the person who wants to become an author, the one who wants to become a broadcaster, whatever field you choose, whatever it is that you want to achieve in life, you want to build a conglomerate, you want to start businesses, you want to start an airline, a media organization, everything, there's usually this big vision. So the big vision is what necessitates setting a daily goal,
Right.
necessitates a weekly goal, a quarterly goal, a monthly goal, and a yearly goal. If there is no big vision and you're just setting a goal, the question is to what end? So that's
Mm.
why it's very important to first of all set that big vision, first of all set that goal that you're working on. And once that one is clear, you can then go on to setting your small goals. So because my own goal is clear, my own vision is clear and it's out of the way, I then set yearly goals that will take me closer to the vision.
Okay.
Do you understand? So it's
Yeah,
very
I do.
important to set yearly goals that will take you closer to the vision. If you don't set yearly goals that will take you closer to the vision, then you're going to, you probably will not achieve that vision. That's how I do my own thing.
I mean, and that's specific and apt because I mean, like I said, when we created the group, we were looking at setting goals for the year 2020 as a
Yeah,
full year. But I like your definition where you're saying that it's a smaller component of your vision. So that means that as an individual or as an organization, you must have a vision. You must
exactly.
have a destination in mind,
Yeah,
and that's what your goals will now be smaller components that leads you on that road. And I like what you said about it being a roadmap.
yeah.
So that means that ultimately it directs you step by step up until you get to achieve
Where
that
you're
basic
going.
goal.
Yes,
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 and in the group, we set it out to say, okay, we can break it down into quarters. So we had quarter one,
yes.
because we started this group in January, 1st of January. So we had quarter one goals,
Yeah,
and then we helped, the community to track it all the way, and then we were able to. I think you joined around February, and that's
yeah,
when you started, giving us those
yeah,
daily videos that
yeah,
was, looking at the different reasons why goals fail, and
yeah.
we'll still get there. So I like the definition, and I mean this is very specific. But in terms of goal setting again, in terms of the number of goals, because my previous guest, we were just discussing about it, that a lot of people set so many goals
Yeah.
in terms of the numbers, and it's also one of the reasons, I'm sure you'll touch on it later, why goals fail.
Yeah.
And we kind of projected that maybe you should streamline it to maybe like 2 per quarter, so that at least at the end of the year you have maybe 8, 9, 10, to 12. But again, the numbers matter because the smaller they are, the more focused
Yeah.
you are to achieving them. So what do you think in terms of how many goals should you set for a year?
Okay, so sometimes let me say that we focus on achieving so many things. And like I said earlier, if there is no clear vision, achieving
Mm,
those many things that we have set out to achieve will be quite difficult. So our
right.
first responsibility is to take care of vision. Then the question is, what's your status? And I'm talking about maybe your social status, your marital status, your
Right.
responsibilities to other people and stuff like that. Now, those will determine the other goals that you should carry along. For example,
Along.
are you married? If you're a married person trying to set a goal, you can't set a goal for yourself alone. You are now setting a
True.
goal that is synchronized with your spouse's goal. You're setting a goal for
True.
children if they're still young, or you're factoring them into your financial goals because their well-being is a major factor as far as your own goals are concerned, because a
Right.
chunk of what you earn will go into taking good care of them. And if you don't factor their own lives into it, then you're wasting your time with whatever goals you're setting. Then the question is, do you have parents? Do you have siblings? Do you have loved ones who depend on you? All those ones would determine your financial goals at the end of the day. Do you have a business that you run? How much commitment do you have towards that business? Do you have partners? Do you run the businesses alone? So those are the kind of other things that would determine. Everything still comes back to one major goal. What's your vision in life? However, if you take care of one important thing, there are ways you can then clear so many other goals instead of looking at itemized goals. For example, let's say that this year, my goal is just to get someone who can help me with achieving my vision. Do you know that if I get that one person, it's possible that I can easily achieve all the 10 other things that I put on my list? But some other people will focus on achieving 10 things on their list instead of looking for one person that can make the goals easier. Let me give you an instance. You have content and your content is really good, but you don't know how to put your content out there. Now you're setting goals. I want to write 10 articles in 2 weeks, or I want to write 20 articles in a month. I want to do 20 videos in a month. You're setting a goal to put your content on radio, to put your content on television. And what you need is simply one content manager. And if you have one content manager who knows the right platforms to use, the person comes on board and says, instead of looking for money to put your content on TV, on radio, why don't you use a platform like maybe Zoom, use a podcast platform, use Facebook Live. This is how to record. You don't need extra cameras. These are the things you should get into. So all you realize that with one person helping you to manage your content, you have ticked so many other things on your goal. That now takes me to having a collaborator. And we're going to see it somewhere as we go on in the slide. We mostly do not think about who should be a collaborator with us when setting goals. We simply think about, oh, these are the goals I want to achieve. These are the goals I want to achieve. But there must be people who are going to help us on the journey to achieve that goal. So you put in the right collaborators from the beginning, achieving your goal is going to be a lot easier. So it will no longer be about the number of goals you're trying to achieve. It's about who is helping you to achieve the goal. And if you have the right person helping you to achieve the goal, instead of counting goals, you will be leaping. If you think that you're supposed to achieve maybe 5 goals, with the right person, you can achieve 15 goals. If you think that you should achieve only 2 goals, with the right person with you, you can achieve 20 goals. So at that point, it won't be about the number of goals. It's going to be about who's with you on this goal.
Right. So there are two things I pick up from what you just said, and I think they're very critical. I'm also at fault with one of them actually, which is that collaborator part, because to a large extent, I mean, I've seen it generally. People tend to just set goals and put themselves in the middle, the center, the end, and the beginning of everything, and feel that they're the only ones that can do it. And I'm getting to realize these days that you actually need a collaborator. No man is an island, like you said. And if you properly prioritize your goals, right, you'll be able to identify which ones are key and then get a collaborator for that one. And like you said, you keep achieving your goals in leaps and bounds. So I mean, that is awesome. So, I mean, let's continue with your definitions and, the details of your slide as per goal setting.
Okay, so as I said earlier, a goal is a smaller component of your vision, which acts as a roadmap, and it specifies what needs to be done. In other words, you can't call it a goal if it is not a smaller component of your vision. You cannot call it a goal if it doesn't act as a roadmap, because a goal will guide you towards where you want to be and who you want to become. This goal will specify what needs to be done. It will also specify where you're going to be doing it, when you're going to be doing it, and how, in order to lead you from where you are to where you want to be. So it's very important to set that goal. Look at the Wikipedia definition of goal that I showed earlier. So Wikipedia says that a goal is a desired result that a person or a system envisions. So it's very important that you are envisioning. You are thinking about something ahead, something that you really want to achieve. And then it says you plan and commit to achieve it. Some people plan for goals, but they don't commit to achieve it. What's the difference between planning and committing to achieve a goal? when you plan to achieve a goal, it means that you have written the goals down. You have said that this year we're going to expand this business. This year we're going to do 500 million in turnover. This year we're going to do 1 billion in turnover. But the question is, what are your own responsibilities? What's your own role in making sure that that turnover becomes a reality? And I like to use this example a lot. If, for example, you want to make first class out of the university, if you're going to make a first class, you've written it down as a plan to make first class by the time you have graduated. Now, that's a clear plan. You're going to make a first class out of the university. But the question is, how do you commit to being first plan? If you don't put it clearly on paper and take action, that, for example, on a daily basis, I must spend 4 hours reading. If you spend 4 hours reading on a daily basis before any kind of exam, it is most likely that you would have covered all the topics that you need to cover before your examination. But if you wait for your examination just a few days and you only read all through the night in order to cover your syllabus, most likely you don't have enough time to cover the syllabus. And you get into the hall, you forget some of the things that you've read, and you're not able to make a first class at the end of the day. But if you start reading from the beginning of the semester and you spend 4 hours on a daily basis, that shows your responsibility towards the plan of making a first class. It's the same thing in business. If you want to have a happy marriage, for example, your goal is to have a happy marriage. But the question is, what's your own responsibility towards having a happy marriage as well? Are you going to remain the blame game person, or are you going to take responsibility, and instead of blaming other people, you will take responsibility? So those are the things that we need to begin to look at. And until we do that, we will just keep blaming other people. We're not going to achieve our goals. So there's also the range of goals. You were talking about quarterly, you were talking about whether a monthly goal earlier. So I call it the range of goals. And it's right there on the screen for those who are watching. They can see it. There are 3 major ranges of goals, and there's the short-term goal, which is from 1 day to 6 months. So if you have a daily goal, a weekly goal, a monthly goal, a quarterly goal, those are called short-term goals. If you have a goal you're going to achieve in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, those are actually short-term goals. And you need to be specific with the daily activities that will also result in the goal that you want to have at the end of the month. Then you need to have what we call the midterm goals. Midterm goals will be anything from 6 months to 5 years. So you go to interviews most times, they ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
In the next 5 years,
It's a difficult question for a lot of people to answer because they never really think about it. They have no idea what they want to achieve in 5 years. So you need to be able to set out from the vision that you want to achieve. Let's say you want to build a conglomerate. Where are you going to be in 5 years? Because you don't expect to achieve that conglomerate in 5 years. Now, let me use this illustration. You want to become vice chancellor of a university, say in 20 years' time. So from the vision of becoming a vice chancellor of a university, what should you have achieved in 5 years' time? Let's say that you already have a first degree. Most likely, I expect that in 5 years' time, you have the goal to get your postgraduate, a master's degree, and from a master's degree, you move on to a PhD. So it's realistic that you can achieve both your master's degree and a PhD in 5 years, because your master's degree will take from 18 months to, 2 years, thereabouts. And your master's degree will take a minimum of 3 years. So it's still realistic if you're quite fast to achieve both a master's degree and a PhD in 5 years. But it is unrealistic to expect that in 5 years, you get your PhD and become a vice chancellor. That's totally unrealistic, because from the time you get your PhD, you need to be in the training or in the academic system for a minimum of 10 years to even become a professor. And you would have been a professor for a few years before you can be considered for the position of vice chancellor. So that it's a midterm goal in line with the vision to say, okay, I'm going to get my MSc, probably get an MBA, get an MPhil if I need it, then get a PhD. Then your long-term goal will be, getting the degree to become a vice chancellor, making sure that I publish journals in maybe 20 papers, internationally acclaimed journals anyway, not just any kind of journal. So that's how I do my own thing.
I mean, it's interesting as well, because I mean, when we started the group, we're looking at that acronym of SMART and smarter goals, and it's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound, and this speaks to to that aspect. And
Yeah.
it was interesting for me because the long-term goal that I do was, between 5 to 10 years. But I think it was, I think the first or second week of the pandemic, I heard Pastor Samadi, mention that he does his own for 60 years. And I
Yeah.
was like, wow. That those are the long-term goals, and everything he does, every decision he makes now is tying him towards, driving him towards achieving that long-term goal. So this is
Okay,
fantastic.
so
Please go
what
ahead, sir.
happens when you do those kind of long-term goals? What happens is that you begin to immediately determine the kind of audience that you roll with, the kind of people that you relate with.
The
When you
company
do
you
those
keep.
kind of long-term goals, your long-term goals will determine the kind of people that you associate with. Your long-term goals will reflect in your financial plans. Take, for example, when you have a 20-year plan and you want to be financially independent, you want to be financially free from every debt, you're not going to start out buying the most expensive cars because you
Right.
will focus more on putting money into real estate, whether it's a
Investments.
mortgage
Correct.
plan somewhere in the world, or you're going to do a rent to own kind of system, as some people are doing now in Nigeria. So
Yeah.
if your plan is to be financially independent, you won't start with the kind of luxury that cannot last a lifetime. A car, for example, is good, and some people always come with the excuse that, look, I use this car for business. But no matter the kind of business that you use the car for, max, maybe you use the car for 5 to 10 years. Except there's a problem. Most people cannot really use a car for more than 5 years. A lot of people use the car for just about 2, 3 years and they are tired of the car. Those, some people don't change their cars after 5 years just because they don't have the money to replace it. Not that they still want to continue with the same car.
Yeah.
So if you put the same amount of money into real estate or into a business, or you put the same resources that you spend maintaining that car into building a house, you're going to have something that you can look up to over several years. And the house is going to keep generating income for you, unlike the car that keeps depreciating in value. And I just use the car as an example. There are so many other things that we put money into that keep, depreciating in value. So it's very important to
Right.
your long-term goal will determine how you spend. When you're about to spend money, you're going to be asking yourself, am I spending permanent money on temporary things, or I'm spending temporary money on permanent things? So that's one way to
Permanent
look at
things.
it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, like you said, it's the long-term goals that begin to structure the things you do now. And I think another thing is a lot of people are not really committed sometimes to those goals that they set.
Yeah,
And it takes a lot of commitment to achieve your goals. So from a financial perspective, like you mentioned, because you know where you're going, you will not start out buying an expensive car. You will
yeah,
start out, investing your money into something that will give you returns.
yeah,
And over time, you can now start doing some other things, that maybe can show your affluence. But from the get-go, you don't invest on, expensive stocks and all of that. And that is really important. And again, another thing you mentioned, which I just want to go back on before we move on, is the fact that, you know, it depends on your status, like you said,
yeah,
whether you're married, whether you
yeah,
have kids, whether you're still in school and all of that. And what I have discovered is that goal setting and tracking and achieving is something that you need to do as early as possible in your life because it helps you to
yeah,
organize things along the way. Personally, I started this when I was 16, 17, 18, where I didn't have a computer. I just had a notepad and I'll just write things down. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. And I committed to. I had mentors that helped me along the way. And as my status changed from being a single to
yeah,
dating somebody and getting married, those mentors helped me along the way because they helped me shape the vision of where I was going to. And looking back, a decade or more now, I can realize, I can see myself now in positions where I envisioned a long time ago. So it is really, really important. Thank you for highlighting that.
my pleasure. All right, so I don't know where if I can go on with my slide or you want me to do something
Yes,
else.
please.
Okay,
Yes,
so
please. Please go on.
yeah, I'll just go on to the slide then. And we're looking at why goals fail now. And it's very
Yes.
important to understand that if you don't know why goals are failing, it's going to be a lot difficult to achieve those goals. That's why I usually like to talk to people about why goals fail. So number one reason why goals fail is actually the fact that people don't actually have written goals. If you don't have written goals, you don't expect your goals to work. So it's very important to have written goals. There's one Harvard research that says that they interviewed a postgraduate class to see how many of them had written goals. And from that session, they realized that so many people, about say 87% of them, did not have written or clear goals. So it was very surprising. Then they had about 3% that had clear and written goals. Then just maybe about 10% or even 7%, they had a goal, but it was not written down. I think I've missed up that calculation now, but it was just to show that a huge chunk of the class, and that was well over 80%, did not have any goal, whether it was written or it was not written. Only 3% had a clear written goal. Then maybe about 7% thereabout had a goal, but it was not written. So 10 years later, they interviewed the same set of people and they realized that the ones who did not have any goal, whether it was written or not, they were just managing in life. The smaller percentage, maybe about 7% or so, that had a goal, but it was not written. They were okay, but it wasn't as much as they could be doing in life. Then the 3% that had a clear goal and it was written down, they were earning times 10 of what their contemporaries were getting.
Wow.
And it was times 10 of those other people that had a goal, but it was not written. So they had 10 times more results just because they had a clear goal and it was written down, which they also stuck to. So it's very important to write your goal. And some people also say that the faintest pen is still brighter than the best of memories.
Memories.
It's
Absolutely.
difficult to remember everything in your head. So you need to write down the goals. And it's not just writing down the goals in a book that you're probably not going to open for a long time. You probably should use what you call a vision board. And you
Correct.
stick those goals into small pieces of papers on the vision board. Sometimes at the back of the door leading to your room, in front of the door leading to your room, at the back of the door leading to your, closet, and you should
Yeah.
have those small goals there on the door,
Somewhere you can see it on a regular
somewhere
basis.
you can see them from time to time. So you write them,
Absolutely.
put them there. Now that determines your daily plans. Because if you have a goal, say for example, you have a goal to write 5 books and you are not writing on a daily basis, how are you going to achieve that goal? So the
Right.
moment you see that kind of goal on the door, you know that one of your daily plans must be at least to spend maybe about 1 hour or 2 hours writing on a daily
Writing.
basis. Yeah, so
Right.
one of the reasons goals fails is because people don't have written goals. And I'm going to rush now because that's not the only thing we're dwelling on. And number
Right.
two is what I call adoption of goals. And you can see from the image there that says copy and paste.
Copy
So
paste. Yeah.
adoption of goals simply means that there are some people who simply take on the goals of other people. They don't understand what those goals are about. They look at what other people have written and their own goals. They just take it, they copy it and paste it.
Paste.
Now, there is
Right.
nothing wrong in using the template of other people's goals, but using the template of other people's goals is different from copying and adopting their goals.
Right.
Number one,
Good.
you do not have the same vision. So when you copy their goals, it means that you are likely to end up where they are going if you copy it very well.
Right.
But if you copy it and you don't copy it well, you end up confused. So you cannot copy other people's goals. You must not copy other people's goals. And you will copy other people's goals if you don't have your own vision. But if you have
Right.
your own clear vision, you realize that this goal is not going to work for me. So you can't copy and adopt other people's goals. Then the next thing is creating goals hurriedly. There are too many people who create goals hurriedly, and that's why their own goals are not working. You need to spend
Right.
time with your goal. You need to ask yourself, what's my vision? What's my goal? Where am I going in life? Where will this goal lead me to? So when you explain all of that to yourself, or you answer that satisfactorily, that's when you can say, okay, this is the kind of goal I need to set. And don't forget, we said earlier, you have to factor in who you are marrying or who you are
Right.
married to. your children,
Correct.
your financial status, maybe you have parents and all of that. So you can't create goals in a hurry.
A
People
hurry.
whose goals fail because they create them in a hurry. Then generalization of goals. And what happens here is a lot of people say, oh, I want to be rich. What does that mean? You have to define it. For
It's
example, if I say
specific.
that I want to be rich, I can say that the level of wealth I want is to be able to say that I'm already broke, even if I have 20 million in my account. Or to
Correct.
say, I should be able to say that I'm already broke, even when I have 100 million cash. So
Mm.
what exactly do you mean by what level of wealth are you talking about? And when you also
All
say
right.
wealth, question is what are you going to do to attain that kind of wealth? You can't just say I'm going to be wealthy. You must be able to specify what you will
In
do,
what?
what you hope to
In
do
what
in order
terms?
to achieve that kind of wealth.
Correct.
You can't just generalize I'm going to be rich or I'm going to be successful. When you say I'm going to be successful, question is successful at what? You
Yeah.
have to
In what
specify,
area?
yeah, what you want to be successful at. Maybe you want to be a successful public speaker, a successful
Right.
pastor, a successful engineer, a successful businessman. But what kind of business? Are you going into transportation? Are you going into
Mm.
logistics? Are you going into computer manufacturing, car manufacturing, or automobiles
Mm.
generally? What kind of business?
Right.
You need to be more specific. Then
Specific.
we set unrealistic goals. I mentioned just a moment ago somebody who wants to become a vice chancellor, and I did say that
Yeah. Yeah.
a 5 year goal would be that getting your PhD, getting your masters and your PhD,
Masters.
if you
Mm.
already have a first degree. But if you don't have a first degree, you don't have a master's degree, you don't have a PhD, becoming a vice chancellor in 5 years is not possible.
Right.
Totally not
Unrealistic.
possible. So question is, what are you going to do in the next 5 years? You then start from where you are. If you have a PhD already, you say, okay, get a job in the university system.
Yeah.
And from getting a job in the university system, you have to write and publish in reputable journals. So when you
Yeah.
write and publish in reputable journals, you keep writing, you keep delivering lectures, you keep delivering speeches. You have to write inaugural lectures as well and deliver a
Yeah.
number of them before you are even
Yeah.
considered to become a
Considered.
vice chancellor. So because there are so many people who are doing that kind of a thing on a daily basis and they still don't become a vice chancellor, then look at
Vice
the
chancellor.
image on the screen. This child,
Right.
we all know that it is totally unrealistic for this kind of child to say, I'm going to carry this weight.
Right.
And you look at the
Yeah.
one on the left, it's totally unrealistic for them to expect that this ox will be able to carry the kind of load. So the
Carry.
ox is supposed
Yeah.
to be carrying, I mean, whether it's an ox or donkey now, it's supposed to be carrying
Donkey.
that load, but it's the load that is
Yeah.
carrying the animal.
Carrying it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Right.
because it's an unrealistic goal for that kind of animal to
Mm.
push this load. What do you think will happen to this child on the right if this child were to make any attempt to lift this weight that we're seeing? It's the
I
weight.
mean, it's gonna break his back completely. I mean,
Exactly. So there, so
it's
that's what
unrealistic.
we do as human beings. Sometimes we set
Mm.
unrealistic
Mm.
goals. We do things that will kill us. We do things that will break us. We want to set the
Right.
kind of goals that only people who have gone ahead of us, far ahead of us, should be setting those kind of goals. So set goals at your level. That's why there are long-term goals and there are short-term goals. Those goals
Right.
that some people want to achieve immediately are supposed to be long-term goals, and that's where they're making those mistakes. So clarity.
Mm.
Some people set goals, and when they set goals, what happens at the end of the day is that instead of setting the kind of goals that will be clear to them, when they try to explain those goals, people end up being more confused. Their
Confused.
goals are not clear
Right.
to people. So you must be able to set the kind of goals that are clear to you. When you are setting a goal, don't set a goal. Again, the reason people will not have clarity on their goal is because they have adopted a goal. They've copied someone else's goal. So when
Right.
you don't adopt a goal, when you don't, just copy and paste another person's goal, that goal is going to be very clear to you. If, for example, I'm talking about my own 5 year plan, I'm going to
Right.
speak, I'm going to talk about that goal with a lot of confidence because I'm the one who set the goal. Nobody set the goal for me. If I'm talking about my 10-year goal, I'm going to speak about the goal with a lot of confidence because I
Confidence.
set the goal. So you need to have clarity. There are times you're trying to set some goals, you just had a flash of inspiration. you need to sit down with other people to get an idea of what this goal should look like. How am I supposed to achieve this goal? What do I need to do? Who should I be talking to in order to achieve those goals? So if you are not doing that, you will not have clarity on the goal. And the moment you don't have clarity on the goal, you will find it difficult to achieve that goal. So it's very important that you're talking to other people about your goal. And once you cannot convince yourself about your goal, how can you convince other people to
Somebody
come
else
along? How can you
to
convince
join you.
investors to get on
Right.
board with your goal? So you need
Right.
to have clarity on your goal. If I wake you up in the middle of the night and I start asking you questions about your goals, you don't need to stutter. Despite the fact that you've just woken up, you must be able to explain your goals. You must be able to share your
Right.
goals easily, even if you don't
Mm.
have all the details. When I listen to you, I can tell that this is someone who knows what he is talking about. So your goal
Right.
must be extremely clear. Let's move on to the next item on the slide. And apart from clarity now, we go on to lack of planning with the goals. So when I talk about lack of planning with the goals, this is what happens. If you are not the type that reviews your goals all the time, the moment you make any amount of money, the first thing that comes to your mind is the next luxury item that you've been waiting for,
Item you want to
the next
buy.
phone, the next expensive phone,
Right.
the next expensive clothes. That means they are not
Right.
planning with the goal. But if you review your goals all the time, if you check
Mm.
your daily activities, if you check your next milestone all the time, it means that you are planning with the goal. So as soon as the next money comes in, you are not thinking about the next
Exactly.
car to buy. You are not thinking
Absolutely.
about the next clothes to buy. The first thing is,
Right.
okay, so how do I progress on this project? Where did I stop on this project? What's the next thing
Mm.
that I must do? That's what you're thinking about. So we must plan with the goal all the time. And going on to number 8, meditation on the goal. You must meditate on your goal. You must think about it all the time. If you don't, you must get to a point where you have internalized your goal. If you don't
Right.
internalize your goal, there is no way you will achieve that goal. When I say internalize your goal, it means that with or without paper, you already know the goals that you plan to achieve. With or
Right.
without the paper that you have written or what is on the written paper, you will still be able to act on a daily basis in line with the goal, because
With your goal
the goal is not only on paper. The goal has moved from paper into your
into
mind.
you. Mm.
The goal
Right.
has moved from paper into your subconscious. The goal has
Mm.
moved from paper into your being. The goal is
Right.
you. You are the goal. So you're not just looking at the paper. And that's one of the things that we need to, that's one of the reasons we need to meditate on the goal. If you don't meditate on the goal, there will be a problem. Then the next thing is discipline. And I'm going to spend a little
Yeah.
more time on the issue of discipline. Now, there are people who have fantastic goals. People write great goals. People write beautiful goals. When they do a presentation on the goal, you're going to be blown away. When they do a presentation on how they want to achieve this goal or how they want to execute the goal, it's going to blow your mind. But they don't have the
Right.
discipline. And there are
Discipline.
3
Mm.
kinds of disciplines that you need to have. You need discipline with your personality, which is moral discipline. You need discipline with finances, which is the financial discipline. And you need discipline with time, which is
Right.
procrastination. When you keep putting off till tomorrow the things that you can do today, you will never achieve what needs to be achieved. You see, a number of goals are time bound. If you don't do those things, then you'll never be able to achieve them. Let me give you an example, and I don't mean to, shame anybody. I don't mean to also speak down on women so that some people will not
Right.
take this in the wrong light. Take, for example, a woman can marry at any time and at any age. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I guess. Yes.
So, despite the fact that a woman can marry at any time and at any age, a woman cannot give birth at any age.
True.
So,
True.
if a woman keeps putting off the plan to marry, you can put off the plan to marry till you are 45 or till you are 50. But the moment you hit 50, your chances of giving birth become extremely slim and medically impossible.
Right.
I'm saying extremely slim and medically impossible because it would then take the intervention of God for that 50-year-old woman to have a child.
Yeah.
But if you really want to
I think
marry,
sorry, Pastor Mr. Fola. I think what usually happens is the statement is, oh, my body clock is, is counting, and
exactly,
that's how they mount pressure to say, okay, you know what, I need to get married as early as possible so that
exactly,
I have that window of childbearing before it gets to 50 and
exactly.
above.
And even for
Right.
the men too, even a man needs to get married on time. And
Yeah.
God willing, if you don't have issues with delay as far as children are concerned, you start having children, you train your children early enough, and you are not training your child when you're already supposed to be a grandpa.
The grandfather.
Now,
Yeah.
the issue with that is if you're training your children when you're supposed to be a grandpa, at that point in time, you don't have the energy to run
Energy.
around and to raise funds to train those children. So if
Yeah.
your finance is not in order, or if you are not wealthy, you're going to find it difficult to train that child.
Difficult.
But if you have some money, then your age will not matter. So long as you do not have money, then your age becomes an issue. So
Right.
it's very important that you look at all of these things. So when you're planning, don't say, oh, I still have time, I'm still young. The time to start
Mm.
a family is when you are young. The time to start a
Right.
family is when you have the energy to run around, not when you do not have the energy to run around, except if you do not plan to have children. So it's the same thing with life. Don't put to tomorrow that business plan that you should
That's
write
it.
today, that proposal you should
Right.
write today, that phone call, that email, don't put it to tomorrow. Now, moral discipline. I'll give you one quick example as far as moral discipline is concerned. Now, there are some men who know that they have great visions. Some women also know that they have huge visions, and some others do not know. But if you understand that as human beings, we all have great destinies and we can become
Right.
anything tomorrow, then you must be morally disciplined. I
Right.
usually say this when I train in physical meetings. One of the reasons I will never, God helping me, misbehave with women is what happens if I become the governor of a state tomorrow, or if I become the president of a nation tomorrow.
Right.
And the
Right.
moment you become the governor of a state, or you become a senator, or you become a
All of
minister,
these things will come up.
the women will start showing up with children. And when they
Yeah.
start showing up with children, even if you don't want to steal, they are going to make
Mm.
ridiculous demands. And they
Mm.
will tell you, oh, are you not a governor? Are you not a senator? Are you not a minister? Are you not a president? Once they start
Right.
doing, they'll tell you, okay, if you don't want to give us the money, I'll go to the press with this information. At that time,
Yeah.
you have a reputation to protect.
To
And
protect.
because you have a reputation to protect, you don't want the press to hear this kind of a thing. So you're going to look for that money anyhow. And anyhow includes falsifying figures, stealing, doing whatever. I mean, the projects that have been committed into your hands, you then start twisting those
And
figures in
cutting
order to
corners.
cover up your past when
Right.
you should have been morally disciplined. So your immoral discipline or immoralities today, they are going to
Mm.
cost you in the future. And
Right.
I can tell you, nobody doesn't want to have fun. I mean, most countries of the world, the moment you turn 18, legally speaking, there is nothing wrong with having sex.
Right.
But morally speaking, everything is wrong with having sex if you're not married.
Married.
But if you want to
Yes.
go the way of your legal rights, question is what happens in your future when your destiny is about to shine.
Right.
So you need
Right.
to focus on, you need to be morally disciplined. And for a lot of young women out there who are probably watching right now or will come across this video, you have been told a number of times, the man will have sex with you and go on with his life. His own life will not be delayed because he's not the one who is going to carry the child. But if you're not
Mm.
ready, if you have a career path you are still pursuing as a girl or as a woman, you then have sex outside of marriage, you will enjoy it, but you must be ready to deal with the consequences of the sex outside of marriage. So
Absolutely.
one of the
Absolutely.
reasons goals fail is immoral or immorality, and people are not willing to have moral discipline. Financial discipline. Do you know that many people, the money they are spending on their mobile phones, their mobile devices, the kind of cars they want to drive right now to impress people who are not even noticing them, that kind of
Right.
money is enough to set up the businesses they want to start.
True.
For example, I'm a
True.
consultant
True.
and I've seen people come for job interviews. I've seen people who are carrying some expensive phones and they're looking for jobs. And I'm wondering, How come you're carrying an expensive phone and you're looking for a job when the phone in your
Oh,
hand is actually
right.
enough? The phone in your hand is expensive enough to help you start a business. There are some people, young people who don't have a job and they're driving cars. And the kind of cars they are driving, those cars are expensive enough to start a business for them. And these are young people, they don't have a family. So we
Mm.
spend money trying to
Right.
impress people in our early years rather than spend money trying to build a future for ourselves. And as a young person, you must never make the mistake of spending money building a few. I mean, you must never make the mistake of spending money impressing people.
Hello, Mr. Fola. Your mic is on mute. Your mic is on mute, sir.
Okay, so I was locked out because of internet, but I'm back. I'm back now. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. So I said the next thing we have to go on to is collaboration.
Okay.
So it's very important that we, consider the need to collaborate. And I'll stop on collaboration so that we can go to the other things that we plan to discuss for the day. So one of the major reasons goals are not achieved is simply collaboration. And if you're not collaborating with people, it's going to be difficult to achieve your goals. You need to collaborate with other people. For example, I shared earlier that when you're collaborating with people, if you're supposed to achieve 2 goals, you might be able to achieve 3, you might be able to achieve 10,
Right.
you might be able to achieve 20.
Right.
So it's very important that you collaborate with other people in order to achieve your goal. Collaboration will save you, it will save you finances. Collaboration will save you the stress of running after several people because when you collaborate, you leverage on the network and the net worth
Absolutely.
of those other people that you're collaborating with. If you collaborate with other people, you're going to, instead of building your own influence afresh with new people, you're just going to use the influence of that other person. So it's very important that you collaborate with other people. And you spread information, more people get to know you, it's easier to
Right.
achieve results and all of that. So I think I should just stop there on those 10 reasons why
Yes,
goals fail. Then we
absolutely.
can
I
go on
mean,
to the couple goals.
correct. This is fantastic, and I really appreciate you for that. Just to the rest of the community and those who are watching, Mr. Fola has dedicated 28, close to 30 days within the community where he was dropping videos of each of these goals and the reasons why goals fail. And if you join the community both on Facebook or LinkedIn, you will see these videos. He was dropping one for every day. I think started about the middle of February till the middle of March. So we had that engagement with him within the community. I appreciate you for this. And just to wrap this up to a large extent, basically, I think there are a couple of things you mentioned which I wanted to drive home with people. The fact that you need to start your goal setting early, and it also
Yeah.
depends on your status. So if you're married or you're still single, it will affect kind of goals you set. And you mentioned the fact that it's also a somewhat vision. So you need to have your vision first. You need to know where you're going to, and then your goals can now help you, in terms of direction. And I think another powerful thing you mentioned is the point about discipline. I mean, to a large extent, a lot of people set goals, but they're not disciplined or committed enough, to achieving those goals. And there's an important one you mentioned from morality point of view, from the financial point of view, and as well as time management. In fact, time management is a major issue, that a major challenge, when it comes to achieving goals for most people, because they really don't know how to do it. And one of the things I would say basically in that angle is to set priorities.